This is Coach Lee, and you're listening to The Door Report.
1-2. Long one.
Danger.
Left field and deep.
Danger. Yes,
Braden Holcomb. He did it again.
Gosh.
A 3-run walk-off home run by Braden Holcomb.
Cranked.
One of us, Google gobble, one of us. We accept them, one of us. Google gobble, one of us. We accept them, one of us. Google gobble.
Welcome back into the Door Report, and welcome into episode 316 on a wait for it Sunday evening, May 18th, 2025. I am Will Byrum, joined as always by my co-host Trevor Hulan, aka Hack Squat Jim Duggan, and today we are joined by TDR contributor / writer Alex Kurbegov to preview the SEC tournament and break down what we have seen from the Vandy boys recently. Alex, you've been quite the busy boy today. Thank you for taking the time here with us today.
Of course. My pleasure. I wouldn't miss it.
Alex was taking I won't go into details as I'll let Alex expand if he wants to. Alex was taking a 5-hour post-grad exam today, right before doing this episode. And then tomorrow, because Alex just recently graduated from Vanderbilt University, Alex will be starting his first big boy job tomorrow. So Alex just bearing it all for the boys, Paul. Alex is bringing it all, putting it all on the table. Alex defines grit. So Alex, once again, I'm going to reemphasize. Thank you.
Absolutely.
For joining us today, because Alex unfortunately does not get paid, but he grinds like he gets paid $200,000 a year. So thank you, Alex.
Of course. No, it's no problem at all. I mean, I'm what the kids call a grinder. So
Also, to recap, like none of us get paid, so it's not just Alex, but yeah. Here on episode 316, I forgot to say we are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. Shipping is always fast and free. You can find 615 Collectibles at www.ebay.com/str/615collectibles, or you can just go and type in 615 Collectibles in the eBay search bar. Items include NFL team packs, graded cards, individual cards, and more. Check them out on eBay. Trevor, Alex, no basketball, no football on episode 316. It is straight diamond talk. And we have a very exciting weekend series to recap before we dig into the SEC tournament that is quickly approaching, starting on Tuesday, which is why we are recording on a Sunday. So Trevor, Alex, I don't know who to start with here for the vibe check or what we want to start off here.
You should also tell the people why we can't record on a Monday as well.
Okay. Well, I have something very important going on Mondays. I have co-ed softball for which I pitch. They cannot be without their pitcher, and we have playoffs quickly approaching. We are currently 5-0, the number 1 seed in the NSL co-ed softball league. So, not trying to brag or anything, but it's kind of a big deal.
We got brainiacs on the pod. We got athletes on the pod. We got crazed members of society on the pod. What can't we do?
What can't
TDR?
What can't TDR do? But Alex, I know you were in attendance for at least one of the games this weekend. Were you able to make it to more than one, or were you just at the one on Friday alongside me and Trevor?
just that one on Friday. Unfortunately, I had as you said, it's been a busy time, so I had to cover remotely for the other two.
So in the intro, I wanted to bring that up because I was able to attend the Thursday game and the Friday game. Me and Trevor attended in the outfield on Friday. Shout out to Trevor for the free ticket. Huge get. I got to see both walk-off home runs, which we're going to talk about in segment one. But what I want to get to in the intro is Trevor was surrounded by a sea of children.
Yeah.
Me and Trevor's seats. So in case anybody is unfamiliar with some of the promotions or local community outreach that Vanderbilt does, Vanderbilt baseball and Vanderbilt football and basketball, but we're talking about baseball here, will occasionally invite local rec teams to games and provide the teams with free tickets in the outfield. It's an awesome thing they do. But me and Trevor's seats were directly next to a couple of those teams, or at least the A's. We know we were next to the A's.
We were the A's and the Cubs.
The A's and the Cubs. They announced they were out there, but me and Trevor quickly realized that quickly developing next to us was a Lord of the Flies situation.
A riot.
It was chaos. There were about 6 adults who were doing their damnedest to keep them under control, but it was just chaos. Truly Lord of the Flies. Kids were just pounding Starries, dumping peanuts everywhere. I looked over one time.
Oh
Trevor,
my
if you want to tell the story,
God.
Trevor was munching on some peanuts.
I actually bonded. Me and Will bonded with these kids, and we could talk about that as well. But we developed a good relationship with about 30 children. So I'm eating my bag of peanuts. I'm done. It's like the 9th inning. I set my peanuts on the ground because I'm done. All of a sudden, I just see something out of the corner of my eye on the ground, and I look down, and directly underneath me is a 6-7-year-old child eating my peanut shells off the ground. And I'm just like, what do I looked at Will, and I go, Will, look under me right now. This child
is
is
a
on
gremlin,
all fours
full gremlin mode.
eating my peanut shells off the dirty ground. And then he just pops up like a hobbit and he goes, can I have these? I'm done with them. So yeah, dude, if you want to eat them, yeah, I guess.
And then Trevor didn't see the other part. He then proceeded to collect the shells as well as the few remaining uncracked peanuts and scoop them all up and put them into a Skittles bag, which he was filling with all sorts of loose candy he was finding on the ground and then eating. I was watching that happen.
It was bonkers.
So it was a great time. Afterwards, a couple of the parents walked up and were like, thank you so much.
We
So
actually
were like,
sicked the kids on Alex.
oh, yeah, we did sick the kids on Alex. So Alex took a picture of Trevor.
No, it was Corn. It wasn't even Alex. It was
but
Corn.
whatever. Corn took a picture of Trevor interacting with the kids, and the kids saw the picture on Trevor's phone because, of course, at this point, they were just everywhere.
They were like, they were crawling on us.
These kids were like between 6 and 8 years old. And they go, that's illegal. Who took that? That's illegal. And, of course, Trevor points at Alex, falsely accusing him. And they start booing at Alex, pointing at him, thumbs down, booing him. And they look and see Alex is sitting next to 2 ladies.
Yeah.
Nice. And they go, he has 2 girls with him. He's cheating. He's a cheater. And then Trevor goes, no. One of those is his girlfriend. He's a good, faithful man. And the kid, for real, immediately goes, does he believe in Jesus Christ as his savior? And I go, yes. And they go, okay.
And then they just stopped.
And just fully accept it after booing Alex and being like, boo, we're going to get him. He's cheating. To, okay, yeah, he accepted Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. He's good to go.
We have
But
no
that
idea Alex's religious stance, but we were like, yeah, he loves Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior.
That also,
Okay, we're gonna stop.
They were asking Trevor, as Trevor claimed he knew every fact about Vanderbilt baseball history. They asked, what's the longest home run hit in the history of Vanderbilt baseball? Trevor goes, without a second of hesitation, goes 1,200 feet. The kids go, no way, 1,200 feet. They go, where? And he goes, dead center, right there. And they go, there's a building there. It would have hit the building. There's no way. And Trevor goes, building wasn't there yet. That only went in the last 5 to 6 years. And they go, what year? Trevor goes, 1972. So they went away with a full belly of peanut shells and misinformation, just as the good Lord intended.
I was telling them like the truth though, so they kept like wanting a baseball or like wanting the outfielders to wave at them, and they kept yelling at RJ. They didn't know his name, so they kept going 42, 42. So I leaned down and I go, hey guys, his name's RJ. If you start yelling RJ, he'll look at you. And they just all go, RJ, RJ.
They were harassing him.
And then they stopped, and I go, you see 26 over there? His name is Braden. And they go, Braden. And they just kept doing it until they would like wave at him.
A good time. And then shout out to whoever the Kentucky right or left fielder was, threw the kids a ball. Shout out to that guy. Good guy.
Yeah.
Just had to give a shout out to the Wildcats because there's not going to be much shouting out because they got swept. That is a very long intro to get to the actual meat of this episode.
Vandy is eating the cats again.
So we are about to get into segment 1. Vanderbilt is eating the cats again.
For the 3rd time, we're eating the cats.
Before we get into segment 1, though, we are now a part of the Rivals Publisher Network. Please visit vanderbilt.rivals.com today or thedorreport.com and subscribe to a monthly or premium membership. Please do that. so you can read Alex's incredible insight into Vanderbilt baseball. Please subscribe also so that we can start paying Alex to give us this incredible insight, because right now, not enough of you are paying. A lot of you are just freeloading because we're not putting things behind a paywall. I see you, Trevor sees you, Alex sees you.
Yeah.
Just know that.
You're taking money off Alex's table, or you're taking food off his table.
Exactly. So
He's starving.
He's starving right now.
He's getting flashback Eastern Bloc as our episode is aptly titled.
You can use the Door Report, all capital letters, no spaces, for a 30-day, no-risk free trial. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Door Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on iTunes. It's now time for segment 1.
And the hydration station.
My fucking ball.
Welcome back into segment 1 of episode 316 of The Door Report. We have literally, as we discussed in between the intro and segment 1, 0 basketball and football to talk about. There is nothing. There are no updates. There is nothing. So we are going to take this segment 1, starting out, as we usually cover whatever little news we have received on the basketball or football front. We are going to go to the premium board member questions that are completely unrelated to baseball. All the other premium board questions will be read after the TDR cocktail break. And we will get Alex to answer a lot of those, because Alex is the in-house baseball expert alongside Hack Squad Jim Duggan.
No, I gotta give that crown to Alex.
I'm just the lowly host here, so take every opinion I have as just a load of crap. All right, here we go. That's baseball. All right, first up, why does Phoebe not like Will? Why does Will ignore Phoebe? Will Will live to regret it? I have to answer that. I
can also answer that. Yeah.
Phoebe likes me a lot.
Phoebe loves Will.
I don't know what is being portrayed on the podcast. Me and Phoebe are the best pals.
Yeah. Like literally, I don't even refer to Will in our personal life as Will. I always call him Uncle Will because he's Phoebe's uncle.
Yeah, Trevor goes out of town and the roles just reverse. Instead of sleeping at night in Trevor's room, Phoebe just sleeps at night in my bed. So yeah, Phoebe likes me. This is misinformation, which we are not going to stand for here on TDR.
In fact, Phoebe loves Will so much. I've told my parents that God forbid something happens to me, they obviously get to take everything that's mine, but I want Will to have Phoebe if something happens to me. And like on a serious note, I was like, if I do die, he gets Phoebe.
All right. And now there are a lot of good comments on this one. Just replies to this. Alex, do you think Phoebe doesn't like me based on your experience?
I have no reason to believe that whatsoever. I think that is complete misinformation. I will just amend that. The only misinformation we do promote here at the Door Report is Eastern Bloc / Russian propaganda, as the title does say. So just want to clear that.
We are huge proponents. Phoebe has
Lenin was a good guy.
Phoebe has seized the means of production. So
we need to put at least 3 pictures of Vladimir Putin shirtless on various animals into the graphic for this episode.
See, no, because we don't rock with oligarchs. It's got to be our boy Stalin.
I have a printer with fresh ink. We should have printed out pictures of communist leaders and posted them behind. Damn, missed opportunity. All right. Reply to that was World's Strongest Vandy fan said, Volinquent is Will's burner.
That would be a crazy. That would be
the most insane
M. Night
twist of
Shyamalan level plot twist.
I can't even find the time to tweet consistently off my personal account. I would love to be able to run a burner, not like Volinquent. My burner would be so much better than that. Then Vandy Jr. says, makes sense now. I guess that's Will's alter ego that Volinquent spews out. My alter ego is not Volinquent. It's nasty. I'm a nasty bitch. But I'm nasty in favor of the Commodores. I can get nasty, but I would also never call for a man's cat to be obliterated by a semi-truck. That's just not the kind of guy
Especially when
I am.
she's also kind of your cat as well.
No, just I'm an innocent. No, any man's cat. The cats are innocent.
Yeah, the cats are innocent.
The cats are innocent. Let's keep them out of this.
Would you call for somebody's dog to be obliterated?
Depends on the dog.
I couldn't. All dogs and cats go to heaven, dude.
I will give a small shout out to Volinquent, not because he does anything even moderately useful to society, but because of the fact that he replies to every single one of my tweets if they even like have anything remotely to do. And it's the same with you guys. And I'm also pretty sure that he's what gets me on Vol Twitter about 90% of the time. And I will say after the Tennessee series, I try to keep my Twitter like somewhat couth, somewhat like sane. After the Tennessee series, all bets were off. I ended that week with I think like 500,000 like impressions off of my Twitter. And I'm going to attribute at least half of those to Valinquent, like getting me onto Vol Twitter and greater SEC Twitter. So I'm going to shout out him for that. Other than that, though, that dude's got issues.
Yeah, there are very few times that I see a burner. We're Twitter veterans here, me and Trevor. I'm assuming you are as semi, Alex.
Yeah.
There are very few times that I see a burner and I'm like, dude, like seriously, like not in a funny way, like seek a little bit of help. Like you seriously are like a really sad person that has some real low IQ psychological issues. Like it's going to be hard to address them because when you read his tweets, he clearly has below an 85 IQ, which really like amps up the issues and how you can really address the problems. So that's going to be a real problem, is addressing the IQ below 85. Enough talk about that piece of shit. Getting to JRob1742 says Phoebe attacked Will 2 episodes in a row last year. The beef needs to be settled. Charity boxing match. Also, more misinformation. Phoebe was attacking the cords of the microphone.
Yeah.
She viewed them as snakes. So I can understand Phoebe was not attacking me. It was not her fault.
She was defending you.
She was defending me against
She was
the snakes,
defending you.
obviously.
Her little peanut brain, she's like, snakes are going after Uncle Will. I've got to get the snakes.
The next question, I don't even know what this means. Maybe you guys can help. This is why maybe I should read them beforehand because this could be a bad reference. JDLCAV says, which sports YouTubers have better mustaches than Max Barr? I don't know who Max Barr is.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is either.
Max Bear Jr.?
I've never heard of a Max Barr.
From Beverly Hillbillies?
But he doesn't have a mustache, does he?
I don't think so. All right. I don't understand that question. If somebody wants to add some clarification on who that is, because I Googled it and I don't know. Maybe it's a porn star. That could be bad on the Google history on my work laptop.
Well, you're not on the VPN, so it'll be fine. What if you did a Max Barr YouTube?
Max Barr CBB. Twitter is loading.
Could be him.
I don't know who this is.
I looked him up, and he has a few pics with mustaches in them. I think Trevor's got him beat, though, so I don't even know.
It's going to be hard to find any more luxurious mustache than Hack Squat Jim Duggan / Trevor Hulan.
I think I'll say this too. I like to.
That's a street sweeper.
I like to promote myself as a humble being. I think I have the best mustache in the sports podcast world because Big Cat no longer wears a mustache. He wears a beard. And so whenever he shaves his beard, which he hasn't done in years, just rocks the mustache. Big Cat of Barstool Sports has me beat.
Big Cat has a glorious mustache. There are a few men on this planet that have Trevor beat. Like I can't remember the actor's name right now. Ron Swanson.
That's
a glorious mustache. There are very few that I can't think of.
Tom Selleck
doesn't. It's iconic, but your mustache I think is more glorious.
He was in he was in westerns. Famous Sam.
You're the movie guy.
Sam. Just look up famous mustaches, and a guy named Sam is going to come up. He has white hair, white mustache. Been in a bunch of westerns. Raleigh Fingers, iconic.
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott.
Okay.
Yeah.
Raleigh Fingers probably has the best mustache of any.
But we're talking like world famous mustaches, and we're having to put Trevor's mustache against world famous mustaches. That's how you know it's elite. So great question. Are there more non-baseball questions? Vandy Jr. said, I love a good cat fight. My money's on Phoebe. Yeah, Phoebe's a fighter. I'll tell you that. She survived on the streets before finding Trevor, so I didn't have to survive on the streets.
Yeah, she's lost her edge though.
Yeah,
she's lost her edge.
She's soft as hell.
Dude. I know they always say like don't declaw cats because if your cat gets out and they don't have claws, first off, it's inhumane because it hurts like cutting off their fingers.
Yeah. Also, I want to add in here. if you declaw your cats, fuck you.
I agree. Yeah, don't declaw your cat. You're a piece of shit if you do that. But like, as long as they have their claws, no matter how domesticated they are, if they go outside, they can survive because they never lose that instinct. I think Phoebe has lost that instinct.
There are some cats that are like this. Phoebe, who, by the way, if you're new to this pod, Phoebe is Trevor's cat / the producer to this podcast. Phoebe has no desire to exit the house. You could leave the doors open. Phoebe's not leaving.
No.
Phoebe has no interest in the outside world. That is the last of non-baseball questions we have. So we are going to get into the Kentucky series recap. I was in attendance and got to see both walk-off home runs. I got to see it on Thursday with Braden Holcomb, Friday with Vastine. And to be honest, I've been to a lot of baseball games in my life. Most of them were Nashville Sounds, not going to lie to you. But I've been to a lot of baseball games, Vandy boys included. I had never in my life seen a walk-off home run. I've seen walk-off hits multiple times. I've never seen a true walk-off home run, and I got to see 2 in a row, back-to-back nights. What a sign from the universe that things are going to be all right for me. But, Alex, you got to see one of them. Trevor, you got to see one of them. The scores of the games, Vanderbilt won game 1, 8-7 on the Braden Holcomb walk-off. We will dig into that. Won game 2, 9-8 on the Jonathan Vastine walk-off, and then won game 3, correct me if I'm wrong because I did not look this up, 5-3. And there was a little bit of drama. It was a close game. Vanderbilt was down 3-1 at one point, but Vanderbilt came back, and it wasn't a walk-off situation. So the least dramatic of the 3 games. But
still a comeback.
Yeah, still a comeback. The Cardiac Commodores swept the Kentucky Wildcats, and I think the Kentucky Wildcats might be cursed inside of Hawkins Field. But we can go game by game, or we can do just kind of broad takeaways. What do you guys think?
Before we get the broad, I just want to get your opinion on something. Since you've never experienced a walk-off home run before until this weekend, I want to start with the Braden Holcomb one because I think that was a lot more electric just because of the score. Whenever he hit that home run, what was your experience? Like, what were you feeling in that moment?
Well, I was with my dad, so that was awesome. That was his first game of the season as well, so he picked a hell of a game. That one was incredible just because they never led the entire game. They were down the entire game from the top of the first, down 5-0 because of Austin Nye's very bad showing. We said last episode you were going to learn what you had in Austin Nye, and he was going to have a chance to prove himself and show Tim Corbin what he has. Well, he showed Tim Corbin what he had. Unfortunately, we did learn what Vanderbilt had in Austin Nye, and it's not good, unfortunately. It was not what Vanderbilt fans hoped you were going to see. You hoped you were going to find another guy to push you forward in postseason play. Unfortunately, Austin Nye gave up 5 runs in the first inning. Not ideal. So that was not the best start, but dude, the home run walk-off, the lights. I saw some people complaining about the LED lights flickering and what it did to the post-game replay and seeing the players' reactions. I understand that. Being in that stadium during the walk-off when those LEDs are going off, it is an electric environment. It's almost like a fever dream when that's going on. And I'm sure it's even crazier for the players down on the field. So I understand that. But if you want the full experience, be there for when that happens. It is totally worth the slightly shittier replay you get. I promise you, when you were inside of Hawkins Field. So it was incredible. We talked about the Austin Nye performance, I talked about the Austin Nye performance, but do you want to go game by game or just general takeaways? Alex, we'll ask you.
Yeah, we'll ask Alex.
Yeah, Alex, what do you want to do?
I mean, I think that there are a few notable things game by game, but I think we can also focus mostly on the general takeaways.
Okay. So let's just do general takeaways and we can connect them back to each game.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
I think that'll be good. So first off, let's not do that, actually. We got to go game by game because the games are so damn significant. I'm sorry, Alex, and sorry, listeners. I'm going back and forth. So game 1, Vanderbilt started out down 5-0 in the top of the first, and we're truly fighting from behind the entire game. Austin Nye did not perform well, as I said. The bats came alive. Vanderbilt was down 3 runs going into the 9th inning after they allowed Kentucky to score. I don't have a lot to say on this one, so I'm just going to swing it to you, Alex. What were you able to watch full game 1?
Yeah, I was.
What are your thoughts on that?
That one was interesting. I'm not actually too low on Nye after that whole experience. He's been so stellar in the midweeks, and then he performed well against Louisville. I think that it was just nerves, and I mean, he has a good fastball, but he really makes his money with his off-speed pitches, and he has like 3 or 4 of them that he throws, and he couldn't land any of them to save his life. He was hanging breaking balls left and right, and I mean, if you do that in the SEC, that's exactly what's going to get you punished. So I think that it's a learning experience. I'm not sure about him starting in a regional game potentially or SEC tournament game, which I initially hoped might happen. But I think that in the long run, this is probably a good thing that it happened right now, and then he can just grow from it. Aside from that, though, I think that was this the game with the Mike Mancini homer? It was, I believe.
It was.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that I know he didn't do too much the rest of the series, but the fact that you're starting to see, I mean, this is now 2 SEC series in a row where he's hit a home run. That's something notable. Obviously, I mean, Vanderbilt has 8 guys who have consistently been in the lineup for the last like 2-3 months now. But Mancini, Rose, that's been kind of in and out of there. And if they can get a guy who's producing some power locked down in that 9 hole, that's going to make a world of difference. Just please, God, don't put Mac Rose back in. I can't do it. Other than that, though, I think that I'll save my other takeaways. Those were really the only game-specific ones I had. My other takeaways kind of expand to all 3.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We'll just really quick on the Friday one, because I think most of the takeaways from each individual game are going to connect to all 3.
I've got something on Austin Nye that's a question for you, Alex. And this is he's really the only focal point that I want to focus on for the Friday game. I know a lot of other things happen, but I think Austin Nye is a fascinating case, especially going into postseason play. If you were Tim Corbin, if you were Scott Brown, how would you feel about Austin Nye in the pen for postseason play?
I love it. Honestly, I mean, if you wanted to be like all strategic and try to outthink outthink the regional, basically, because realistically, nobody has enough pitching to get through a regional. I mean, 4 games in a very short amount of time. That's almost impossible to have enough pitching for. So what you could, in theory, do is if you're facing a 4 seed that doesn't have an ace, you pitch him against the 4 seed, and that's I'd say that's very comparable skill level to what they faced against Louisville, what they faced against WKU, and a couple of the better midweek opponents that they faced this year. So you could do that, but Tim Corbin has shown time and time again he doesn't care who they're facing. They're going to put their best guy out there first. So that would really limit Nye to the pen, and I'm all down with it. I mean, I think that if you can get him in particularly that like first regional game, if your starter gets you out, you're into a good lead, and then rather than wasting Sawyer Hawks, Alex Kranzler, Connor Fennell, any of the other bullpen or potential starter guys, bring him in there with a 3 or 4 run lead to finish out the 6th through 9th inning. I think that that's an absolutely awesome thing to kind of have in your back pocket that you didn't have through SEC play.
Yeah.
I love the idea of him coming out of the pen in postseason play.
Yeah, I think this was a test start, kind of exactly what you said. I think we knew that going in a little bit, and unfortunately the test start didn't go how anybody hoped it was going to go. Going to the Friday game, not a good start either to the Friday game. Vanderbilt was down, eventually mounted a comeback, Vastine walk-off home run. Kind of a very, not quite similar, but very similar path to how game 1 went.
It's much more back and forth.
But much more back and forth. Saturday, the game on Saturday, Ben Cleaver, Kentucky starter, came out, there was not a hit given up until the 5th inning. Then Vanderbilt's bats got going. Vanderbilt ended up winning that one 5-3 in comeback fashion as well. So overall, Vanderbilt did sweep Kentucky. But by zero means did Vanderbilt dominate Kentucky to sweep this series. So there are a lot of takeaways to be had. I know Alex is itching to get his off as he He had a great write-up on the Kentucky series. You can find that on thedoreport.com. But my initial takeaway, and I want to pose this question to Alex to get things started off. I talked about it last episode, and I got criticism for it, but I had a take about Ethan McIlvaine. There was a question of, has Ethan McIlvaine turned the corner? My answer was no. Ethan McIlvaine's entire MO this season has been he'll put together a good start, put together a few good starts, and then come out and just piss down his leg. That's a bad way to say it. He's a good pitcher with great stuff. It's not an issue of his stuff. It's not an issue of arm talent. It's an issue of consistency. And once again, we saw Ethan McIlvaine come in during the Friday game and give up a bunch of runs in a key situation. And I just don't believe that right now McIlvaine is the guy you can trust. He's the guy you're going to have to put out there. But does this performance, as McIlvaine was pointed out to me, he had 5 starts in a row or 4 starts in a row where he did not give up an earned run. He did give up runs, but they were not earned runs. So how are you feeling about McIlvaine, Alex? Because I personally just am in the exact same position of you cannot trust him.
I'm torn, honestly, because it's true. I think it actually, after the Tennessee series, I think it was seven appearances without giving up, an earned run, which is, I mean, they were short appearances. They were 1 to 2 innings each, but those add up. That basically amounted to like, or I should say earned run, sorry. But that amounts to basically a complete game with no runs. If you look at who there was, just add it all up basically. And given it was against midweek competition, and then Louisville is not your average midweek up until the Tennessee series. So I think that he's close. I think that he's not making the same mistakes that he was early in the year, which was just a ton of walks, and then he had no control whatsoever. So if he wanted to try and get it in the strike zone, he was just going straight down the middle every time. And that obviously resulted in the 6 earned runs in 2 innings and having to pull him immediately. He's not there. He's definitely improved from there, but there's still an element of inconsistency. I mean, I even noticed on Saturday, his stuff was down. He was sitting like 96 to 98 against Tennessee. Against Kentucky, he went like 94 on all but like 1 or 2 pitches, and then those were 95. So I don't know if there is something else going on. He's always been a very fastball heavy guy. That's what he relies on. But I don't know. I also do just want to say he got really unlucky with both of those home runs because the wind was gusting up to like 30 miles an hour on both of those hits. And I'll tell you, that first one off the bat, it looked like it was barely even going to get to the middle of the outfield. And it just kept carrying because it was so high and there was so much wind. So I think that that's a really unlucky one. And then the second one, I mean, again, there's 30 mile an hour wind, and it didn't look like it got carried by the wind quite as much, but it got out by maybe a foot or 2. So, I mean, the science would probably tell you that that's an outfield flyout if there's no wind. So that's pretty unlucky. And then obviously the singles and doubles you can't do anything about that one. So I'm torn. I'm very, very torn. I know that's a non-answer, but I think that when his stuff is there on a good day, he is your ideal closer who's just really unhittable, might give up a walk, but his stuff just overpowers you. But then if his stuff is down or if he just can't locate, then he needs to be a guy where if he walks the first 2 batters or if he gives up a hit and then a walk, you just pull him immediately because you know it's not going to get better.
Yeah, that's I like that answer of torn because I think you just have to put McIlvaine in with the idea of like he can be pulled so quickly. And I just don't know if they're quite with that mentality yet. There are just a couple stats, and I understand he has improved. But he was initially expected to be a starter. So it's like I understand he has improved, but like the quote that I gave last week was responding to a question that has he turned the corner? Mm-hmm. And it's like, no. And my answer was no when everybody wanted to say yes, because I'm like, no, he hasn't. Him coming out and performing well against MTSU, Indiana State did have a good performance against Alabama. I'm going to give it that to him. But to say, obviously, the stats show he had no earned runs against Louisville. I get that. But he gave up 3 hits and 3 runs. I get the no earned runs, but it's not like he's gone out there against incredible competition outside of the Tennessee series. outside of that 2-game stretch. That's it. That's what everybody's basing this full turnaround on for McElvain is 2 games against Tennessee. And I get it's your rival. I fully get that. And he has the stuff. You can see it. He has the pop. But it's like it hasn't been put together against quality competition consistently. And we're at the end of the season. So it's like, no, he has not turned the corner. But that's kind of the only negative stuff I wanted to get out there. I'm sure you guys have a lot of stuff you want to talk about. But pitching, batting, where do you guys want to start?
Trevor, go for it. Sorry.
I'm a pitcher first guy, so we can start with the pitching. I think we already hit on Austin Nye. Just tough situation, man, to get thrown out in a Thursday game against an SEC team. Typically, whenever those first games are for your aces, that's a tough predicament. I think he's got the stuff. I think whenever you look at his metrics during midweek games, like his stuff is really impressive. But he's got to remember too, he's young. And so he's going to have those bad outings. I'm not worried about Austin Nye. I think he's going to be a really, really good pitcher for Vanderbilt.
He also had not pitched in, I believe, like almost a year and a half before coming to Vanderbilt. Because he got his senior year. So this is really a big comeback year. And all things considered, I think he's pitched phenomenally considering that.
I agree. And I think too, going to the Friday game wasn't his best performance. But there's something about J.D. Thompson that I just love. And I think what I love about J.D. Thompson is this. His floor is very high, I think. And his ceiling is incredibly high. So I think the risk certainly, or the reward certainly outweighs the risk with him. Is he going to go out there and is he going to get hit sometimes? Yeah. But I don't think at all this season he's gotten what we would consider shelled. I might be forgetting a game or two, but normally he goes out there, really good stuff, gives the offense an opportunity to put runs on the board. I love J.D. Thompson. I think that he's going to have a sensational postseason, and I think he's somebody that Vanderbilt could really hitch their wagon to, and a guy that we barely saw this week, not in his traditional role. Connor Fennell. I'm still a Connor Fennell truther. I think that kid's a starter. I think he's going to be your ace one day. I think looking at this pitching staff, really the starting pitching staff, I don't even want to get into the bullpen because whenever you add guys like Nye into the bullpen, or maybe even Fennell into the bullpen, what already is probably the strongest bullpen in the SEC gets a hell of a lot stronger, which is it's so important in postseason play. But just looking at the starting pitching, I think Vanderbilt is set up very, very, very well for postseason play. Didn't have their best weekend this weekend. That's okay. I also said it on the pod, and I also still stand by this, even though they got the sweep. If they'd have lost the series 1-2, I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. They still had number 1 seed locked up after Friday or Thursday. So I think it's tough because these guys are athletes. These guys are D1 elite athletes, but also like, you go into that Friday game, you go into that Saturday game going like, I don't really need it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to go out there and throw my best stuff with the possibility of tweaking my elbow or my shoulder. So I think that also needs to be taken into consideration. But overall, the pitching, stellar. The bullpen didn't have their best week, but then again, small sample size. Overall, they've been elite. I can't speak highly enough about this Vanderbilt pitching staff, really.
Yeah, I'm actually going to disagree with you. I think that the bullpen had an amazing weekend. I think. I have it here. The bullpen, because keep in mind, technically after Austin that was a full bullpen game. They allowed 2 runs in 8.1 innings in that.
That
game.
is true. Yeah.
And then over the next 2 games, they pitched cumulative 9.1 innings, and they only allowed 2 more runs for a total of 4 earned runs through, or actually one of them wasn't even earned, never mind. So like 4 runs in 17.1 innings pitched with one of them being unearned.
You got me there, Alex. Now that I think about it, yeah, I think we were just still talking about
it's just McElvain.
I was thinking about that Friday because I think I went back and looked on D1 baseball, and poor guy after that game, his whip for that game was awful because he gave up a lot of walks.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, so I mean, it was
I'll back off, Alex. You got me. We got to pass the crown to Alex. We got to pass the crown to Alex.
But I agree with everything else you said. I think that the bullpen, I keep seeing on Twitter or just various everywhere. I mean, Scott Brown hadn't exactly endeared himself to Vanderbilt fans over the last couple of years. You had Carter Holton, Devin Futrell, Bryce Cunningham, and then a number of other future MLBers, and then you just constantly put out like slightly above average pitching staff. So I can understand why. Then also with the whole never taking pitchers out until they've given up 8 runs or whatever it feels like. So I can understand why there's some like pent up animosity towards Scott Brown just from over the years. This year, I think this is one of the best pitching coaching jobs I've ever seen done. You don't have a first rounder on this team. You have like 1 second rounder in Thompson, and then Fennell. I don't know where he's going to go. He might have the production of a first rounder, but I don't know if the MLB is going to see him in the same light as his production in college. But either way, you have no surefire first round talent, and then a whole bunch of guys who kind of coming into the year, you're like, well, they have potential, but I don't know if it's going to come together. And Vanderbilt's pitching staff is like one of the top 5 in the country, both starters and bullpen combined. And their bullpen is, I think, the deepest in the SEC. And statistically, it's one of the top 3 for sure at the very least. And then in the country, it's, again, like top 5, top 10. It's an amazing pitching staff. And I think that this weekend really, really highlighted the depth of, again, one of your starters was pulled after 0.2 innings, and you will still only allowed 4 runs over the next 17.1 over a 3-game stretch. Like that's an insane thing to say. And for comparison, Kentucky has struggled with their bullpen, particularly late in games, but they allowed 9 runs in 11 innings pitched. Alabama's pen allowed 16 runs in 8.1 innings against Vanderbilt. Tennessee's allowed 11 runs in 12.2 innings. So, like, I don't know what more. Those are 3, like, solid but not great bullpens who allowed a ton of offensive production against Vanderbilt, while Vanderbilt's bullpen actually came in and performed significantly better than the starters did. So that's a wild thing to ever say, especially in college.
This is why we bring Mr. Kurbegov on. That was an incredible statistical poll, right?
You know
there.
what?
Just absolutely putting Hack Squad in his place.
You know what they say about successful people? Joe, the successful people always surround themselves with people who are smarter than them.
We found that here in Mr. Alex.
We didn't find that with Blake Froman.
Unfortunately not. He's going to love that.
We're going to get a text at 7 a.m.
Also, just to Blake again, you have no idea the potential relationship strife you cause whenever you said in the TDR group chat that I have to break up with my girlfriend if you lose the game. This is when we were up 7-5, mind you, in like the 7th or 8th inning. So everyone kind of thought like, oh, we're not going to lose. It was inconsequential. After the top of the 9th, I got the biggest death stare. She said, "Do you even think about it?" And I was like, I promise, as you guys said, you just gone to bat for me. I'm a loyal guy, but I'm glad we didn't have to have any tough discussions after that game.
Blake only cares about the clicks.
Yeah, Blake's a clicks guy.
Blake's a clicks guy. He doesn't care about the interpersonal relationship amongst the TDR band of brothers that we have.
All right, we got through the pitchers. Takeaways from this weekend on the batting side of things. Saw a lot of balls leave the yard.
Sexy as hell.
Saw some inconsistency. How are you feeling about the bats? I am obviously, after what we've seen the last few weekends, feeling a lot better than I did about a month and a half ago. Indescribably better than I was a month and a half ago. This series, to me, specifically games 1 and 2, felt like games that the Vanderbilt offense of March does not win. That feels like they get down 5-0 in the first inning of game 1. That's just over. This team's not going to put up numbers to come back from that. And they did. Kind of the same thing in game 2 as well. They continued to fight back on offense. So the approach has changed. Power numbers are up. Strikeouts are slightly up. How are you guys feeling heading into postseason play about the bats? Are there any players in particular that stick out? Mine, I'm going to steal you guys' thunder. RJ Austin looks like he's getting dialed in.
I was going to hit on him.
Right at the right time of the season. So I'll swing it to you guys now. I already stole RJ, but you can talk about him as well.
Yeah, I think the bats right now, and you even said the bats are so much better than they were in March. They're so much better than they were all of April as well. This team is hitting and producing offense at a production that is very dangerous and that could lead them to Omaha. I'm changing my tune. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from offensive production. You hit on RJ. I think a guy that had a huge weekend this weekend and a guy that really needs to step up the senior leadership. Jonathan Vastine, 2 home runs in the game 2 walk-off home run. I think he's really coming along. I think if Jonathan Vastine can continue to produce power, I think that's a really dangerous combination, especially whenever you factor in the corners. And of course, another guy who he's swinging the biggest stick in the world, man, Braden Holcomb. Like what Vanderbilt fans have been begging for years since JJ Bleday really is like, when are we going to get our big stick guy? When are we going to get our big stick guy? You got him. You finally got him, and his name is Braden Holcomb.
Yeah, the other guy I do want to point out, and Alex, I might be stealing your thunder now, that his production has just never really faltered the same way as the rest of the lineup. Riley Nelson. He has just stayed consistent all season, including this Kentucky series. He's just stayed consistent, and I don't think that name is getting brought up as much because he didn't have the kind of plummet down in the middle of the season that a lot of these guys had. So I'm going to throw Riley Nelson in there, but anything, we already basically said every single name in the batting lineup, Alex, but anything else you want to add on the bats?
Yeah, again, I'll just hit on the changed approach. I mean, again, I know that there was skepticism or just it's something that's not super easy to see unless you know baseball pretty well when a team has like changed their hitting approach. But I mean, the evidence is overwhelming. Strikeouts are up, but also the amount of power is up. I've written down here that this is partially stolen from an Arya Gerson tweet, but also I did a little bit of research on my own. Holcomb, Barzy, Brody Johnston, Jonathan Vastine, and Riley Nelson pre-Oklahoma game 2, which was April 12th, so just over a month ago, hit a grand total of 19 home runs over 35 games. After that time, which is a 20-game span and just over a month, as I said, they have combined to hit 26 home runs. So they increased their production by like 33% in 33% less time. So it is just the amount of power being produced. Somehow it's still not even at the top of the SEC, which really kind of shows you how hot the bats are just in general. But I mean, what the other teams don't have is, as we just went into, a really solid starting pitching staff and then elite bullpen, while this team does. So like you said, the offense for the last 4 years, the story has always been, can the offense do enough? It's officially at the point where they are not just doing enough, but they can, in fact, carry a bad pitching performance or two. And so that inspires a lot of faith in me because, I mean, it's the NCAA tournament, the bats are hot. I mean, you're going to be playing at Hawkins Field the whole time into Omaha, which is really good because it's not a very hitter-friendly park. And then obviously Omaha isn't either. But the pitching staff is bound to have a bad day. And I think that the offense is finally at a point where, okay, hey, we get down 3-0, we get down 4-0. I mean, as we saw, if they get down 5-0, offense like, all right, let's go to work, and they'll just chip away at it, and they can produce enough to the point where you can come back from those types of things.
I'm very glad you brought that up and how you phrased it, because, and I'm thinking of a way this might make no sense, but I'm going to try to make it make sense. So if you have a side of the ball, no matter what sport it is, baseball, basketball, football, if you have a side of the ball that is completely elite, like completely elite, you can look at 2019 LSU, you can look at Georgia when they won their Natty in 2021. Like, I mean, next level, the best in the country, no doubt about it. You can win a national championship in any sport. You could look at, I mean, they didn't win it this year, but they made it Houston's defense. You can look at those teams and say they can win a championship because they're so elite. Vanderbilt doesn't really have that elite of a side of the ball?
I think their pitching is.
You think it's like the best in the country, undoubtedly the best in the country?
I think you can make an argument, yeah.
I was
It's top 5 or 10 at the worst.
okay.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at, the point I'm trying to loop around and make is they're not undisputably number one. So what we were looking at was we knew that the pitching staff was good, very good, but not to the state of like a 2019 team with Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, where it's so elite that it really doesn't matter even if you have a below average offense or an average offense. This team this year, you knew they had a really good pitching staff. You guys disagree with me. That's fine. Totally fine. I don't think this pitching staff is that elite that is going to fully lead you to Omaha to a national championship on its own. I think now the bats have made up for that. They are good enough, and they are above average now, well above average in how they are performing. You could even put them up in the good category. So what I'm saying is there are going to be games throughout this NCAA tournament, and baseball's a tournament game just like basketball, but there are going to be games where the offense just doesn't perform or the pitching staff just doesn't have it. The other side is going to have to make up for that. And what you said, Alex, where the offense now can chip away and win games despite the pitching staff not performing well, they're going to have that happen to make it to Omaha. And a month and a half ago, I did not think there was a chance in hell I would be saying that about this offense. So that was a very long-winded way to say that both sides of this team are capable of making up for the other side when it's needed. And that's a potential championship team. That's the whole point I was bringing up LSU Georgia is they didn't have elite offenses or defenses on the flip side, but they were so good, like generational offenses and defenses, that they're the outliers of this theory is why I brought them up.
I have a take for you guys as well, staying on the offense. And I'm glad we brought up the hitting, the change of the approach at the plate. I think the person on this team who you can look at and you can say, wow, their approach has really changed and the numbers support it. And you can even check their swing map on D1 Baseball if you have a subscription. Jonathan Vastine. Jonathan Vastine, his entire career at Vanderbilt has, like, let's just put it frankly, had like really shitty at bats. Like if it was down and out of the zone, I mean, he was getting knighted constantly. Bad swing, strikeouts looking, could not see the ball. He is not swinging at those pitches anymore. And I know that strikeout numbers are up, and that's okay. If you're going to hit for power, strikeouts are going to be up. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with shitty at bats to where you're swinging at stuff that's bouncing on the dirt. And Jonathan Vastine is not doing that anymore. Jonathan Vastine is taking long, really good at bats. And I would really encourage you. I'm not going to, no free ads here at TDR. But if you have a D1 Baseball subscription, look at his swing map. His swing map has changed halfway through the season after that Oklahoma series. And he has completely changed his approach. And it's fascinating to watch.
Welcome back into segment 2 of episode 316 of the Door Report, and welcome back from the TDR cocktail break. I hope you are holding a delicious hot or warm, hot or cold. Whoops, those are not opposites. Hot or cold beverage next to you, as we have a very spectacular SEC tournament preview ahead of you, because we have Mr. Alex Kurbegov joining us, who is our in-house SEC baseball expert. You will truly not find a more knowledgeable man about college baseball than Alex Kurbegov. Knowledgeable, autistic. We're all autistic here at TDR. So, Alex,
don't let RFK see this, or he'll round us up.
He's about to round up the entire staff of TDR.
I'm going to kill TDR.
You've had better RFK impressions. That was
I
not your
have,
best
dude.
work.
I need to get back.
You've gotten better than that. You've had better than that. But Vanderbilt secured the number 4 seed in the SEC tournament by sweeping Kentucky over the weekend, giving the Commodores a double bye in the single elimination SEC tournament hosted in Hoover, Alabama. Some people had some questions. I'll read the question early, and then we will get to the rest of the premium board questions after we do whatever preview we're going to do here. Somebody did ask World's Strongest Fan. He said, waiting all day for a Sunday night. TDR. And then said, just because I haven't seen anything on it in a while, what's the status on press passes for the SEC tournament /regionals/football? So I can tell you SEC tournament for baseballs, there's no chance because it's in the middle of the week. All of us have jobs. So there's no way we can go to Hoover, Alabama Tuesday through Saturday. Also my birthday is this weekend, so there's
happy early birthday.
Yeah, there's no possible chance that I'm going to be going there. And Alex, I'm assuming since you're starting your new job on Monday that you can't take off 4 of your first 5 days at your new company and attend the SEC tournament. So unfortunately, World's Strongest Vandy fan, we would love to have a credentialed member of TDR down in Hoover, Alabama, but we don't have enough paid subscribers because everybody gets pissed at us when we put things behind a paywall. So subscribe to TDR. Encourage your friends and family to subscribe to TDR, and maybe next year we will have a member of our staff down in Hoover, Alabama. But Vanderbilt, like I said, has the double bye in the SEC tournament, a relatively, I don't want to call it an easy path because there are 0 easy paths to an SEC baseball tournament championship, but Vanderbilt has a really good path. They have a really good path.
Mm-hmm.
If Vanderbilt they're going to be matching up against the winner of Georgia and the winner of Kentucky and Oklahoma. 3 teams all right there that I think Vanderbilt is very capable of beating. And then, of course, if they do win that one, they're likely to be facing regular season conference champion Texas in the semifinals. So there's a lot of questions around this tournament as to, does this tournament matter at all for Vanderbilt? And is Vanderbilt even going to try to win this tournament? Because according to D1 Baseball right now, according to their latest tournament bracketology, Vanderbilt is the number 3 national seed. There's no dropping below that 8 mark for Vanderbilt. There's probably no dropping below the 5 or 6 mark in the national seed. So truly this SEC tournament does nothing for Vanderbilt in either direction. Maybe it can boost them up to a 2 or 1, maybe. But what difference does that really make? That's kind of a question. So Alex, Trevor, we can get into the breakdown of the other teams and potential matchups and who you guys think are going to win. But I'll ask the really broad question here early. Do you guys care about this tournament at all? Alex, we'll go to you first because I know Trevor's answer.
In terms of wins and losses, no, not really. Like you said, I don't think that they're going to seed Vanderbilt lower than number 4, potentially 5. And the differences between, the difference between 1 and 8 overall is relatively obsolete unless you want to get into like, oh, well, theoretically, if you're the number 8 overall seed, you'll have to face the number 1 overall seed in Omaha. But that's so far away that there's no use in even thinking about that. So I don't really care wins and losses. The only thing that I really would say that I care about is I think that you need to get Alex Kranzler and Miller Green to pitch because you don't want them to have not pitched in 3 weeks before going into your regional. And then I'd like to see it's really mostly just pitching and then making sure your offense doesn't go in after not having played. So I'd like to see some good performances just for the sake of having the good performances and keeping up a lot of this really strong momentum. But if Vanderbilt loses to Georgia in round 1, it's a loss for Vanderbilt, so that's going to suck. But beyond that, I'm not going to be too torn up about it.
Trevor, and then I'll give my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with Alex for the most part. I'm going to be totally frank, though. I could not care less about the SEC tournament. If Vanderbilt got bounced first game against Georgia, it does not change how I feel about this team. If Vanderbilt makes it to the SEC tournament championship and wins the whole thing, it doesn't really change how I feel about this team, as weird as that is to say. My big thing is does the reward of winning the SEC tournament outweigh the risk of potential injury. And so that's where I sit. I truly believe I do not care about the SEC tournament.
Me and Trevor talked about this before, and me and Trevor often agree on things. We about 50% agree on this. So I am always a proponent. I know baseball is different because national championships are the goal. Or at least Omaha's, but really national championships are. I am always going to say, I want the hardware. You go out there, especially how you've set yourself up with the double bye. Try to win the damn thing. Injuries, you've played 55, 56 games. You can't look at these 3 games and say, oh no, we're going to have injuries happen. Just look, you don't even have to go that far in history. People can look at the 2015 Vanderbilt team. That team made it to the national title, but of course should have won it, didn't win it. But they won the SEC tournament that year. You don't have to go far back into history. Just look at last season. Tennessee. The Tennessee Volunteers were hot at the end of the season. They carried that momentum through the SEC tournament. They then carried that exact same momentum and hot bats into the NCAA tournament. And that momentum carried all the way through to a dominant national championship. And I hate to say those words, but it did. So it's a little bit different. I want to bring home the hardware. Now, the logical side of me, it doesn't matter at all. In the grand scheme of things, outside of winning this championship and getting that hardware back to Nashville and back to West End, this has no implications on the rest of the season. They can get knocked out game 1. It doesn't change how I view the momentum of this team. This tournament, to me, is all gravy. This tournament, I can only feel more positive about this team moving forward. I'm not going to move into any negativity no matter what happens unless there is serious injury. And that's how I see it. So I think we're all in some form of a Venn diagram of agreement here.
Yeah, I think everybody here, I don't think anybody on this pod is going to be absolutely pissed if they drop Georgia.
No, and I don't think any Vanderbilt fan in general is. I think this team has shown us enough the last month.
I don't know, man, dude. Some of our dude.
Yeah, some might.
Some people are crazy, dude.
That is true. But generally in this tournament, as this is an SEC tournament preview, and we kind of just stated it doesn't really matter for Vanderbilt, but let's go to the premium board questions because they have some good thoughts around baseball in general, and then we'll get to
just to quickly agree. I think number one, with it now not being double elimination and you are just playing 3 games, it's basically a weekend series for Vanderbilt. I agree that you don't really have to worry too much about injuries. But then also, I don't want to see Jonathan Vastine out on that field. I don't care if you go into the championship. You do not put him out on that field.
Okay, the reason I was just punching Trevor in the arm, my bad, Trevor. So we were having a conversation, as we always do, the meeting of the minds before this episode, and we were talking about guys we possibly didn't want to see play. And the guys I brought up immediately was Vastine. I saw him slide weird into second base. I didn't like that at all with the extended straight leg. Give him some time to rest. I also brought up Braden Holcomb, as I thought he had a slight injury, and that was a reason for a pinch runner. Trevor informed me I was wrong, whatever. But, I would say anybody that has anything lingering, if it's like a sore quad from getting hit by a pitch or anything.
A blister on a finger.
Yeah, but the other side of it is the bats are hot, and I don't want to keep these guys out of the batter's box for a week and a half with how they're playing right now. So I agree 100%, logically, but the dude's finally putting it together at the plate, and it's like, do you want to keep him out of the batter's box for an extended period of time when he's finally seeing the ball well? It's a tough balance, and that's why they pay Tim Corbin the big bucks, because that's a tough decision to make. Getting to the questions from GLH4VU says, kind of going off the kerfuffle in Knoxville last week. Give me the one player from each big 3 men's sports you'd least want to fight, but you can't use Pavia for football. Interesting. I thought this was going to be a baseball question. It was not. This should have gone in segment 1, but
I mean, it involves baseball.
Let's get off track. I know my number 1 in baseball.
So my number 1 in baseball is going to be Braden Holcomb.
We can all agree on that one.
Okay, for my number 1 in basketball is going to be Tyler Nickel. There's something about Tyler Nickel that he's obviously big. I think he would beat the brakes off me.
I'm going to go Tyler Nickel. For football, I'm going to go with Zaylen Wood. I think Zaylen would take my life.
Because this would change my answer for football. Can we go with people who were on the team last year but won't be on the team next year?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Football for me, Stephen Hubbard.
Big low.
Yes, I agree.
I would be terrified to ever have a scrap with him. And then basketball, I'm going on the opposite end of the spectrum. Someone who wasn't on the team last year but will be next year. Going Mason Nicholson, 6'10", 300 pounds. Just raw domination. Pause. Yeah, no, I'm not going with that.
All right, thanks, Alex. I literally was showing Trevor where I had pulled up the graphic as I was going to say him as well because he's a man. He's a grown man. Yeah, he's huge. The graphic we posted on TDR, just go watch his highlights. That's not a man you want to get into a scrap with. Tyler Nickel's an interesting choice.
There's something about Tyler Nickel that I'm like, dude, if like we were in a bar fight and he's like,
I think
the
funnier part is the obvious answer from last year's basketball team is Jalen Carey. I think because he's built like a brick shit house.
I think I'd take him.
You can take it.
I'll take Jalen Carey.
For my other ones on football. The football stuff. Braden Holcomb's obvious in baseball. Walk next to that guy in the tunnel.
I have a sleeper for football.
Huge. Football. Big Glow's such a good answer there. From last, I gotta think on this one.
I have a sleeper for football.
Who's your sleeper?
Colby Taylor.
Yeah.
Sleeper, because like we all like, who don't we want to fight? Oh, we don't want to fight dudes in the trenches. But let's go outside of that. I wouldn't want to fight Colby Taylor.
That's a good one. Yeah.
CJ Hurd?
Yeah, CJ Hurd. There's another one that I would literally say Keanu Coote. He is a freak of nature. Just on site. He is physically, Jesus Christ. The other guy that I would point out who's no longer on the roster, unfortunately transfers to Demarion Thomas.
Yeah.
That dude is not somebody I would want to get into the scrap with. I would say Watahawk just because he's so giant. He seems like a gentle giant.
He seems like a good guy.
He seems like a more gentle, quieter giant. So
I had a class with Demarion a few years ago, and he was very much a gentle giant as well. So he didn't encourage me, but like physically speaking, then yeah.
Yeah, Colby Taylor's probably the sleeper.
Colby Taylor's the sleeper.
Yeah, I'm changing my answer to Colby Taylor.
I also had a class with Colby Taylor. He's a really, really nice guy when you're just interacting with him interpersonally off the football field. On the football field, though, if you're going like pads and you're just in your football mindset, he would terrify me.
The only reason I didn't say Colby Taylor is he's maybe one of the only players on the entire football roster that I have a wider physical build than him. Because he's taller than me, but his legs, I don't have big legs. My legs are bigger than Colby Taylor's, which is saying something. So that's the only reason I didn't. He would beat my ass. I'm not saying that, but he's not exactly Keanu Coote size or anything. That was a great question. Completely unexpected.
Langston Patterson, also country boy, corn-fed. He's thick too.
That's a question.
He's a thick boy.
I'd love to put some more thought into that question and really dig into it.
Is there a player that you think you could like handle in a fight though?
Brock Taylor.
I couldn't hit my boy Brock. I would. And they're like, dude, you have to fight him. I'm like, I can't fight.
That's
him.
the only player I
would let Brock Taylor.
Look, I'm not saying I would win. I'm saying that the odds would be pretty even between me and Brock Taylor. That's the only one that I actually like listed height and weight. For real, you would put my listed height and weight and go, that's pretty even.
Could you imagine though if like WWE Randy Orton punches you in the head though?
If he got a kick off. If he got a kick, I just got to get him to the ground.
Brock Taylor just pulled a Randy Orton. Oh my god!
See, we keep bringing up WWE, and I keep wanting to use WWE in the intro, but I can't.
Yeah.
Because thanks, Vince McMahon, you will pull it off YouTube. Let's get to actual baseball questions here. Do we even have any? Okay, Vandy Jr. 2. They're all just asking who we'd fight. Vandy Jr. 2 says, who will Vandy's 4th and perhaps 5th starting pitchers be if needed in regionals/postseason play?
That's gonna have to go to Alex because I've been thinking about this and I don't have a clue. I'm not sure if Tim Corbin has a clue.
I don't know, honestly. What I would be inclined to say, especially after the Nye experiment didn't go very well, if it had, the answer would just be Austin Nye straight up. But so number one, you're not going to have to worry about that in the SEC tournament because they're going to play a maximum of 3 games, I believe. The only time they would play more than 3 games would be Omaha and in a regional. I would lean towards in Omaha. They're not gonna mess around. They're gonna throw their starters. They're gonna cycle between Thompson, Bowker, and Fettel, and then they're just gonna have the bullpen work through it. And if you're on short rest, you're on short rest, and you're gonna pitch through it. In a regional, though, honestly, I think that it kind of comes down to like, after seeing a bullpen day effectively do very well against Kentucky in game 1, I think that he just Fennel, Thompson, and Bowker being your top 3, and then 4th is just it's a bullpen day. You're probably, because now this is 2 times, because we also had a bullpen day versus Florida game 3 where effectively Cybers come in giving you like 3.5 innings of good work, then you go Guth an inning or 2, Levi Huseman, then Kranzler or McIlvain to finish it off. But so that would honestly be my idea, is just because all of those guys are solid pitchers. You're not really taking a massive quality hit when you go into any of them. So I would say those 3, and then a bullpen day if you're in a regional, and then if you're in Omaha, then you're a starter and you're pitching on short rest and you're going to suck it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, after what we saw with Austin Nye, I think that was the goal, was to have him be that 4th guy, exactly what this question was. But yeah, I would ask you a question, Alex, because my immediate thought would go to, after what you saw at Austin Nye, and even after what I said about him, after what you've seen out of McIlvain the last 6 or 7 appearances, do you put McIlvain in that situation as your 4th starter? Since you don't think so?
Oh God, no,
definitely not.
Okay. Since I was just wondering, since you had him in mind as a starting pitcher at the beginning of the year, if after some consistent performances and what you saw at Nye, and really there's no other, I don't see any other options. I mean, we've named all the pitchers they really have.
It would have to be bullpen days.
It would just have to be a full bullpen day, really, which would still see McIlvain, but he just wouldn't be on the starting bump.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting to another question from Vandy Jr. 2 says, last time Vandy hosted a super regional in 2021, the policy was to give season ticket holders their same seats, unless ordering more tickets than they already had or were in the section reserved for visiting teams fans. That was a Malcolm Turner policy. Any word if Candace Lee is changing the policy to reward super rich people who never come to regular season games but always want the best seats in the house? Or will she stick with the policy to reward longtime season ticket holders who may be dirt poor and spend all their disposable income buying baseball season tickets? I only ask. Vandy Athletics sent out an email yesterday telling people they had until Friday to donate oodles of money to athletics in order to earn more priority points in regard to postseason event tickets. Can have you guys heard anything? Because I have something I just wanted to say.
I know how the ticketing
okay,
function
tell them
works.
how it's going to work.
Yeah, so season ticket holders will get an email. Season ticket holders, regardless of whether you're backstop, first baseline, third baseline, outfield, they get first priority. And now season ticket holders can buy my understanding is that season ticket holders can buy the amount of seats they already have. So if you already have 2 season tickets, you can buy 2 season tickets. You can buy more if you want, because you do get first priority as opposed to us who don't have season tickets. And so that is totally up to the season ticket. Season ticket holders, if they want to blow a bag, can get their season tickets and then however many more seats they want. If they wanted to, then whatever is left over goes to the common fan, or I hate saying the common
non-season
ticket holder. Whatever is left goes to them. So season ticket holders get first priority.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that's 100% right. If there was a push for any type of money grab. I have to say, with where college athletics is moving, I would fully understand. That's all I wanted to add. It's different now. And how it was structured would be different as well. So
I'll go on record and say I get what you're saying, and I get they have to do it, but I do hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it, but I understand. But it doesn't make me like it.
Yeah, this is not one of the related to that policy, but it's like when Vanderbilt in order, as you have seen during the NIL era, we have watched with our own freaking eyes. This athletic department has been able to become competitive in all three major sports and women's basketball because of NIL. So other teams are now adapting with now revenue sharing coming up on the horizon, new ways to bring in money. Vanderbilt's going to have to do that as well. It's not, but keep in mind, this is not the greed from Vanderbilt of 15 years ago.
Yes.
This is not donations that are then going to be run through some funnels and used to build the new fucking science building. These are funds that every other high major program is going to be doing, and Vanderbilt is truly having to keep up with the Joneses. So I hate it as well.
Yeah.
Like as a fan, but you have to keep in mind this is not some evil money grubbing thing. It's
not like the old Commodore Club.
This is to keep you competitive, truly on the field competitive. So I just wanted to add that in.
That's
Trevor,
a great
thank
point.
you for explaining.
That's a great
point.
DLH4VU says, so McIlvain has turned that corner, huh? Very much just is who he is, and that's maddeningly inconsistent. Yeah, we talked about that already. I don't want to shit on the guy anymore because he did look good 6 or 7 starts before. And if Vanderbilt's going to make a deep postseason run,
they need him.
They're going to need McIlvain to step up. So I'm not going to talk shit about him anymore. I want him to freaking perform.
I will say though, somebody that does seem like they've turned the corner, Miller Green. We have. I think Miller Green has been going. I'll take back what I said about turning a corner with McIlvain. I think Miller Green has improved tremendously.
Improved.
You just can't put him on with runners on.
Yeah. No, his left on base percentage is bad. If you go in there though, and he's got a clean slate, he's very efficient.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that.
He's very efficient with no runners on.
And these guys are. Oh, what was that, Alex? Sorry.
It's just unfortunate that they put him on with runners on, like all but one of his last, 10 innings or something.
And it's crazy. You think that, like, I know that we as fans have access to that. Like, I can go and see what Phoebe just knocks over shit. I can see what his left on base percentage is, and it's not good. And so, like, if I have that access, I know Tim Corbin and Scott Brown have that access.
Does this look like a cat that hates me?
Yeah.
Just have to say, point out. Does this look like a cat that hates me?
This cat only hates women.
This cat actually does hate women.
Anytime
this cat
a lady
Phoebe is sexist as hell.
Phoebe loves the dudes. Phoebe does not like women.
I've had friends come into town, and Phoebe will literally stay on the other side of the room if they're women and like not approach them, bite them. Like a dude comes in, immediately, no hesitation, friends running up against him, getting in their lap. Phoebe is sexist. Phoebe's red pilled. That's how we like it here on TV.
One day, whenever Phoebe meets a lady of mine and she likes her, I'm gonna be like, all right, that's the one. This is the one.
All right, let's see what other questions we have. If we do have any more questions, all right.
They're gonna ask us what we'd rather fight Tim Corbin or Scott Brown.
It might be up next. Who knows? They're really, really keen on fighting questions the last couple weeks. I don't know what's happened. All right, there's a question about last year. The top 8 seeds RPIs were as follows. Number 1, Tennessee's RPI was 1. Number 2 seed Kentucky's RPI was 3. Number 3 seed Texas A&M was 2. Number 4 seed UNC was 4. Number 5 Arkansas was 5. Number 6 Clemson was 7. Number 7 Georgia was 6. Number 8 Florida State was 8. Then they went on to list the current RPI. I think that has adjusted from when they pulled that just slightly. So I'm going to read the current RPI off of D1 Baseball just to make sure we're 100% correct here. The current RPI is number 1 Georgia, then Auburn, Vanderbilt, Texas, Arkansas at 5, Oregon State at 6, North Carolina at 7, LSU at 8. The rest of the question went on to say, will this year's top 8 align as well with the RPI as did last year's? Why or why not? And then he says, give reasons supported only with facts, numbers, and not feelings, please. I don't know how to support those with numbers because the numbers are RPI and what we saw last year. So it's all feelings to me. I mean, RPI, KPI, strength of schedule. I don't know how else to break it down.
I mean, your number 1 seed is going to be presumably Texas. And I believe from what D1 baseball has, they have Georgia at number 1. I don't think Georgia is going to be a number 1 seed. I think it's going to be Texas.
Yep.
And Texas is behind Vanderbilt, if I'm correct. Texas is 4. Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. I would imagine Texas is your number 1 seed.
Yeah, I have my own mock top 8, and I saw that question earlier, so I kind of prepared a little bit. Yes, so Texas is number 1 in the mock. They're number 4 in the current RPI, which is behind Vanderbilt. But their record is so good that there's almost the only way that you would see Texas not be the number 1 seed is if either Arkansas or Vanderbilt go and sweep the SEC tournament win, and then they lose first round. That would be that's really the only way that they're not the number 1 seed, because they have the most Q1 wins in the country. They have the best record against Q1 teams in the country. They have the most SEC wins. They have a really good RPI and a really good strength of schedule. So they're pretty cut and dry. Number 1, number 2. Do you want me to just go through my number 2? Because I could answer that whole question.
Yes.
Okay. So number 2, 3, and 4. This one is where it gets a little bit confusing, and you're not really super sure on how it's going to go. Because Vanderbilt, it's going to be, in my opinion, unless things go crazy in tournaments, some order of Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and LSU. LSU has an RPI of 8, so that's not the best if you're arguing for a 2 through 4 spot. So I think it's going to be Arkansas number 2, although LSU has the head-to-head against them. This is why it's all confusing. I think Arkansas and LSU are going to be 2 and 3 in some order. Vanderbilt is going to be 4. North Carolina, who just beat FSU, is going to be 5 most likely. Alabama has absolutely no shot of being a top 8 seed, so I'll just get that out of the way right here. Oregon State and Oregon is going to be a really, really interesting one to monitor, because Oregon State has the RPI. They're number 6 right now. Oregon is number 12. Oregon just won the Big Ten, though, and Oregon has also beaten Oregon State 4 times this season. So it gets really, really difficult to rank Oregon State above a team that they've lost to 4 times. So I actually think that it's not going to be Oregon State. It's not going to be Alabama. And instead, it'll be Oregon as a top 8 seed. And then one of, most likely, it would be Coastal Carolina, or maybe Oregon State sneaks in at that number 8 seed, and Oregon is at number 7, I want to say. Like, I don't know. So I don't think it's going to follow it as exactly. That's my ultimate answer. Also, Georgia's going to be, I think, it's going to be, if I had to guess right now, it would be Texas, LSU, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, North Carolina, Georgia, then Oregon State and Oregon. So
no LSU.
Oh, did I not say LSU? LSU would be number 2. Sorry.
Okay,
Texas,
I might have missed it. You did. My bad.
Texas, LSU, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, North Carolina, Georgia, Oregon State. That would be my guess. And the potential upsets are if Coastal Carolina has an amazing record, they have a really good RPI, and then Clemson, I don't think is going to get in, even though their RPI is number 10. I don't think they'd be a national seed. So yeah, those are the main ones in contention.
Answered that way better than I could. So hope that was good enough. Hope that wasn't feelings. It's a weird way to say that. I don't know why that pissed me off. Yeah, hope that was enough facts. Given the parity in the SEC this year, excluding South Carolina and Missouri, of course, they only had parity with each other. How much impact will the results in Hoover have at the national level? Will Hoover really matter, or is it just a chance for the lower-ranked teams to, quote-unquote, make a run and knock off some high RPI teams and thus improve their NCAA tournament seeding situation? Is the only way A&M makes the big show? Is the only way A&M can make the big show is by winning the SEC tournament, or would that even matter? What?
I think I understand what he's saying.
Yeah, if they win the tournament, they're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
It's automatic
there's more to this
qualifier.
question. Florida, in my opinion, is overrated. Their hot streak was developed primarily by sweeping South Carolina, Missouri, and taking 2 of 3 from Mississippi State. 3 of the 4 worst teams in the SEC this year. Other than that, they went 7-14 in SEC play and were swept in 3 series. With all that in mind, what can they do in Hoover to truly earn them a regional host spot, or is that out of the question? So I guess that was long-winded.
I've been listening to stuff about all this like all day today, so I can take this if you want. Number one, I see what you're saying about Florida. I don't think they should host. However, you did. Whoever asked the question did leave out that they took 2 of 3 at Texas, and they also took 2 of 3 against Alabama, who are both really, really good. So I wouldn't say that they're necessarily overrated. I do think that they're undeserving of a host spot. And then to answer your overall question, the SEC tournament does not matter much at all for those top 4 teams that I had mentioned, which is or top 5 rather of Texas, Arkansas, LSU, Vanderbilt, and Georgia. Who it does really matter for is the kind of 6 through 10 teams, which is Auburn, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and I'm forgetting someone else in here, but that kind of group of teams, because I did also leave out Auburn when I was answering the previous question. Auburn has the off chance of being a top 8 seed because their RPI is number 2, but they only have 17 SEC wins, and that would be they did just lose their most recent series. So for Auburn, it's significant because if they win it, then they're probably going to get into that national seed area, especially with that good of an RPI. And then for those other teams below, the LSU, Tennessee, Florida teams, that's what I was forgetting. It all really, really matters for them because they want to be hosts. And at this point, I would have Florida and Tennessee right outside the bubble and Ole Miss in the bubble, despite the fact that Ole Miss has the lowest RPI of any of those teams. But I don't see how you can let Florida in with only 15 SEC wins and a losing record against Q1 opponents. That is where I agree with whoever asked this question, because a lot of their SEC wins do come from that SC and Mizzou sweep, or double sweep rather. And then Tennessee has lost 6 of their last 7 series. So even though they have 16 SEC wins, which is enough to get you a host, the national narrative is just not in favor of them at the moment. So that's who it really matters for. It really matters for those teams that are like on the bubble of hosting or not. And then I guess it also does matter a lot for Kentucky. Kentucky is going to be playing their butts off because they only have 13 wins right now, and they are as on the bubble as you can get. And if there's 2 or 3 bid stealers, then they're probably going to be out. So you're going to see a lot of those kind of mid-tier to lower mid-tier teams going really, really hard, because that's either how they're going to secure a position in there or secure a host spot, which is obviously really, really big. But again, for that top 5 of Georgia, Vanderbilt, Texas, LSU, Arkansas, it's very inconsequential.
Mm-hmm. I'll note too, because the poster also asked about Texas A&M. I think I agree with Alex. For Texas A&M, though, they would have to win the whole thing. Even if they got to the championship after that Mizzou series, there's literally no chance in hell. Texas
They have to win the whole thing.
They have to win the whole thing. Even getting to the final doesn't do it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's the only reason I kind of went what to that question was he asked about winning. I was like, that's an automatic bid. So yeah, that would obviously help them make the tournament. But yeah,
so in that sense, like it does matter for like A&M and Mizzou
they
and
have
Carolina
to win it. I will say D1 baseball, Alex, you brought up those 3 teams: Tennessee, Florida, Ole Miss. Right now, D1 baseball has all 3 of those teams, and obviously stuff can change in these conference tournaments. They have all 3 of those teams as 2 seeds. So none of them right now hosting. Right now, they have Tennessee. If you just look at it numerically, they're the number 17 team, basically, in the tournament right now. So they're that top number 2 seed right now. projected to be playing against Georgia Tech, hosting.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. The rest were just comments about basically the questions that were above that we already answered. So any teams or general storylines that stick out to you besides Vanderbilt, maybe a dark horse to win it all, besides one of these top 4 teams with double buys?
Dark horse team to win it all outside of the top 4 is definitely Auburn. They have been playing really, really well of late, and they were a projected national seed until they kind of got messed up by Ole Miss games 1 and 2, which was not really expected. Ike Irish, who I don't think played against Vanderbilt, or if he did, it was just when he was coming back from injury. He's going to be the SEC Player of the Year in all likelihood. He's hitting over 400 in SEC play with an on-base percentage over 500, which is insane, along with like 12 home runs and a bunch of doubles and stuff. So they're going to be really, really dangerous coming into the tournament. And they would be, honestly, they might be my pick to win it all because they're going to be motivated to try and get a national seed. And I think that they're significantly more talented than any of those guys just around the bubble, being like the other ones who'd be motivated in Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Florida. So I'd say Auburn's my dark horse to win it all. Other narratives, I can't really think of any. I think that it's going to be a lot of what I just said, of those bubble-ish teams in terms of regional hosts. They're gonna try really hard. Whether Tennessee throws Doyle game 1 or if they kind of hold him off, and then I don't know. I don't think there's really much beyond that. It's going to be interesting to watch the middle of the SEC sort itself out, and then the upper tier teams, theoretically, they should have the best chances to win it, but I don't think that they're going to have the motivation to do so.
Trevor is very confident in his laptop's battery as energy saver mode has just turned on his
It's
laptop.
on 20%.
And he said, it's all good. No worries. We could just lose the last hour and a half of beautiful knowledge being thrown upon us by
20%.
Alex. But it's whatever. Auburn, to me, I'm obviously not the most knowledgeable in baseball like you guys are. My focus is very narrow on Vanderbilt for the most part. I've watched other SEC baseball series, but not to the extent you guys have. Auburn just sticks out statistically by every metric. This is a team that should be higher in the bracketology than they are. Obviously, I have not watched as much or dug in as much as you guys, but they have the number 1 strength of schedule in the country. They have the number 2 RPI in the country. They're 38-17 overall. I don't understand why they're not just fully in that conversation as they're a host. 15-12 against Q1 teams, 5-1 against Q2, 7-1 against Q3. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something with Auburn that you guys know, but yeah, I can see that just because if you're reading quote unquote bulletin board material, Auburn's got that in front of them right now.
Yeah,
I coach to be like, hey guys,
genuinely, I think that the answer to that is that the national media and generally just sports people in general have not adjusted to the super conference unbalanced schedules. And like, if you're talking if you really wanted to get into the nitty gritty of this, I could make a really, really good case for Vanderbilt to be the number 1 overall seed and that they have the most impressive resume of any team. Because to have this record, they have the number 2 overall strength of schedule behind Auburn. But they didn't play any of South Carolina or Mizzou, who basically were 6 gifted wins for most SEC teams this year. At the very least, it was a free 4 to 5 wins. And to be 19 and 11, not having played either of those 2, I think is actually a bigger accomplishment than Texas winning 21 games or however many they won, or Arkansas, who got 6 wins off of those 2. They went 14 and 10 outside of that. So I think that it's really just that. And so, because we've been used to all of these schedules having some relative amount of parity, and therefore you can judge, okay, this team has 17 SEC wins. That's really not good enough to get you a host spot. Or this team has 19 SEC wins. That'll get you a national seed for sure. I shouldn't say host spot, but that should, 17 usually isn't good enough for a national seed. Whereas 19 is. And I think that Auburn actually has a stronger resume than Arkansas, who has 3 more SEC wins, but they lit up at South Carolina and Mizzou, whereas Auburn only played South Carolina, and statistically speaking are just as good and also had a harder strength of schedule. So I think it's all narratives, and the people just really haven't adjusted. You can't go off of SEC wins to determine how good a team is anymore, because there's always going to be 2 or 3 teams that are so far below the rest that not all of them play.
Alex, that is literally, and I listen to an absurd amount of college sports podcasts and radio. That's the first time I've heard anyone talk about that no one has adjusted to the super conferences yet in their bracketology. That's a great point.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally hadn't even really thought of that until now. I mean, I looked at strength of schedule, see Auburn at 2, Auburn at 1, Vanderbilt at 2, and go, well, yeah, they had hard schedules, but it's that's because they didn't have the 2 cupcakes in SEC play. And thus, Vanderbilt only had 3 less conference wins than Texas, who won the conference with 22 wins. Vanderbilt had 19. I mean, that could be the difference. You just toss in Missouri instead of a high-quality opponent halfway through the season. Look there's a sweep, and that's the difference. So, yeah, that's a really, really good point, because looking at all the metrics, once you factor in strength of schedule, it changes up how you view things. And I don't think most people have had that in mind, that these guys are not playing the same conference schedules as each other. That's a really, really good point. All right, we got the dark horses out. Now we need to get your full, Trevor, unbiased predictions. What do you think Vanderbilt does in this SEC tournament, and where do you think Vanderbilt ultimately lands in the NCAA tournament as a national seed?
I think Vanderbilt gets knocked out by Texas for the overall SEC tournament. I actually think Arkansas wins it. I think Vanderbilt obviously gets a national seed. I'm going to put them at the 4 spot, and I'll go a step further. Vanderbilt wins their regional and makes a super.
Are you feeling that confident, Alex?
I wasn't going to get into postseason predictions.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. That was off the rails.
I do agree with Trevor about the SEC tournament prediction. Georgia, I don't know if anyone has looked at their home versus away splits, but they, capital S, suck on the road when right field isn't 310 feet away from them. Hoover is a very, very pitcher friendly park. That goes really into Vanderbilt's favor. I think they beat Georgia. They also already swept them. So I guess in baseball, it's really hard to beat a team 4 times in a row, but I like the matchup on paper. And then, I think they probably just lose to Texas. It'll be a close game would be my guess, but Texas probably comes through at that. I think that their game 2 pitching would be better than Vanderbilt's. Just in terms of, although I guess Spencer, I don't know. That's going to be a good game. I do think Texas would probably take it. And then I think I'm actually going to stick with Auburn. I think is going to win the SEC championship.
So, yeah, that was Auburn was mine. That's why I kind of brought him up and said, because I'm a numbers guy. So I was looking through all the numbers and was like, this team is unbelievably undervalued with what they've shown this year in their strength of schedule. So Auburn's my real prediction. Trevor, you already stole what my kind of first prediction was Vanderbilt wins game 1, no matter who they're matched up against. And then they get knocked out by Texas in game 2.
Yeah.
But that's my real prediction. So if somebody wants to clip the second half of this statement and make me look dumb, fine. But my prediction, my secondary prediction, my primary, lose to Texas. My secondary prediction, Vanderbilt is going to win this SEC tournament.
Ooh.
They're going to run through and win the SEC tournament, and then they are not going to make it out of region play. That's my bad prediction. And then the only reason I'm saying
this
because I can already imagine. This is how my brain works. I can already see the storylines and talking points after this season. And I can already see Vanderbilt wasted time focusing on the stupid, meaningless SEC tournament and then gets knocked out in another regional. Why is Tim Corbin so stupid? And I'm going to say, what? You want him to not play? Like, what? So that's all I'm saying. That's not my real prediction. My real prediction is they're going to beat Texas, and I personally have no idea what the hell is going to happen in regional play. I think I'm very excited to see the matchups they have in regional play.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a major key for this Vanderbilt team. And according to D1 Baseball, no matter what freaking seed Vanderbilt gets, they're going to be playing Louisville. So it doesn't matter if Vanderbilt's number 1. It doesn't matter if they're number 16. Louisville is in Vanderbilt's region. I don't know why that is the case. Is D1 Baseball just lazy? Or is Louisville actually just going to follow around Vanderbilt no matter where they are?
I mean, historically speaking, Louisville has followed
yes.
Vanderbilt wherever they go. I think the latest one also was Austin P coming to Nashville. So
that would be a nightmare. They hate crap out of
Austin P baseball. People are going to be like, "Oh, Austin P baseball." They were one of the first teams to 40 wins this year. They are a very, very, very good baseball.
Louisville Austin P would not be very fun.
No, I was looking at that. That's why I brought it up. As I was looking at what D1 Baseball currently had projected, which is, like you just said, Louisville and Austin P. That's not what I want to see. If that's what I see on Selection Sunday, I'm going to be not thrilled about that, because I clicked on Austin P's little stats and exactly what you said, Trevor. This Austin P team reminds me of a few years back. I think it was 2018. A little team out of Cookeville, Tennessee called Tennessee Tech that made a run to a super regional and actually beat Texas in game 1 of their super regional before losing 2 straight. This Austin P team,
about that.
they should have been
I
gone to
forgot
Omaha.
about that.
This Austin P team reminds me a bit of that. The perfect gelling of all this talent that has power and is way too good to be in the conference they're in. So I do not want to see Austin P. All right, we've gotten our predictions, what we think Vanderbilt's going to do in there. Really, anything else you guys want to add on before we close out episode 316? It's going to be
Dude, time flies when you're having fun with Alex. Guess how long we've been recording?
It's at least been over an hour and a half.
Hour 50.
Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun with the boy Alex. I also do want to note, I think we should clarify for the record, Alex Kurbegov is not Russian. So it's like now we're gonna keep calling him Russian because it's a funny running joke. Like your ancestors aren't even from Russia. You've said on pod they're Eastern European, but they're not Russian.
Bosnia, yeah.
Bosnia, yeah. So like let's I'm gonna keep calling him Russian. We're gonna keep the joke going, but we do want to note for the record, the Kurbegov family is not Russian.
We are not Vladimir Putin sympathizers here, despite my comments and the jokes made on TVR.
I'm cutting that part and just said we are Vladimir Putin supporter. There we go. We'll edit that for you, Alex. All right. So, any last words here, Alex?
I don't know. We've had a lot of words, and I don't know if I can say any more.
Do we want to talk about the Russia-Ukraine conflict while you're
get
here?
into the Russia-Ukraine conflict a little bit.
Dude, we could get into
Then
do
we
you
can-
believe in a two-state solution?
Then we can get to the Gaza.
Always I made you
About
here.
the
You know
Israeli
that.
settlers.
Yeah, this is all good stuff. This is all great stuff that's perfectly in the scope of the Door Report.
Then let's get into, is white genocide in South Africa real? Let's do that.
Let's dig, brother. Let's dig. Wow, this is good stuff. All right, for myself, Will Byrum, my co-host Trevor Hulan, and our very special guest Alex Kurbegov. Once again, thank you, Alex, for joining here on episode 316. An incredible preview of the SEC tournament and a semi-recap of the regular season. You can follow Alex on Twitter at AnchorDown. What is it?
0714.
At AnchorDown0714 on Twitter. So for myself, Will Byrum, once again, my co-host Trevor Hulan and Alex Kurbegov, this has been episode 316 of the Door Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.